Welcome to Beat the Street on this Thursday, the 15th of February. Let's take a look at the headlines as we wait the start of today's US markets in 60 minutes' time. We've got the European markets already making good positive headway, and we are looking for a higher start across Wall Street as well. The recovery continues after Tuesday's fallout on from that stronger than expected CPI data. We are awaiting US economic data for retail sales and the weekly jobless claims. To see how things develop. Initially, we're seeing weakness for the dollar. Looking ahead, Coinbase reporting earnings after the bell this evening for its fourth quarter. This is an all-session stock on the IG platform and will be of interest for IG clients as it trades in the midst of the numbers. Let's take a look at some of the breaking news we're getting coming through on the IG platform for retail sales in the States. I want to show you this chart here, which indicates what's happening with the euro dollar as we see a continuation of this push higher for the euro that we've seen over the last couple of days in recovery on from the weakening picture we had for the euro against that stronger dollar a couple of days ago for the consumer price number. Retail sales coming through very weak. We are down for the month of January by a margin of 0.8% month on month. We had been looking for that 0.4% plus figure that we got last month to drop by just 1/10 of 1 percentage point down to 0.3%. But you can see it's far weaker than expected. And what this has done is this has seen money going into the euro at the expense of that US dollar. A New York State Manufacturing Index as well, down 2.4%. The Philadelphia Manufacturing Index has come in at 5.2, which is actually slightly stronger than had been expected. But these retail sales numbers are, I think, really important. Continuing jobless claims as well, coming through 189,500. That's pretty much in line with expectations. Let me show you what's happening on the daily chart for what's been going on since that move lower for the euro on Tuesday, when we saw that stronger than expected number coming through for CPI. Since then, we've seen some recovery in the euro dollar, and at the moment, at least, the euro is holding its ground against what is a weaker dollar in the face of that weaker than expected retail sales number. Let me just quickly take a look at what's happening with the dollar basket on a minute-by-minute trade, just to give you an idea as to what's happening with the dollar overall against the whole basket of currencies. It's weaker as we see the dollar basket pull back in line with what we've just seen with that weakness in the dollar against that slightly stronger euro. So that's the picture that we've got there at the moment. Let me just quickly take a look at what's happening across Wall Street. We had been looking for a slightly stronger start. We are still expecting that stronger start on the, this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The weaker than expected number for retail sales, I guess it's going to have a slightly stronger view, I suppose, on what the Fed's going to be doing later on this year. If we get many more weak numbers coming through demonstrating that the consumer is finding they're going tough in the face of higher interest rates, it may be the Fed might be persuaded to cut interest rates come the June meeting. July looks an almost slam dunk, but at the moment at least, it looks like it's going to be June when we see the Federal Reserve cut interest rates. This is Dow Industrials moving higher as we speak on a minute-by-minute basis, just to give you an indication as to what's happening. We're at the top of the candle, as we've just seen. No sellers in this market at 38,527. Let me just quickly look as well at what's been happening on the broader market, the S&P 500. Same sort of price action, but right at the top of the candle. No sellers at 5,014. One of the big areas of the market that has suffered as a result of that stronger than expected CPI reading last Tuesday, we've seen a recovery, and a fairly hefty recovery as well, for the NASDAQ. Pushing higher as we're speaking again at 17,860. We were talking about this trade yesterday with a long trade with a stop loss underneath the underside of this rising line of support. If that had been your positioning yesterday, you'd have been in the money as things stand there at the moment. Not too far away from the record highs as well at 18,045 on this market as things stand there at the moment. So as of the moment, we've got a weaker dollar. We've got slightly stronger than expected equity markets on the back of a weaker than expected number coming through for US retail sales. Now, let's take a look at some of the other areas of the market where we could see some movement. I want to bring up the chart of Cisco Systems. It reported earnings after the bell last night, and the company has indicated it wants to lay off something like around about 5% of its entire workforce, which would be about 4,000 jobs, the 80-odd thousand it has on the payroll. Let me show you, this is an all-session stock on the IG platform. So it gives an indication as to how things are likely to trade when things get underway later on there today. Yesterday, all sessions after the closing markets last night, shares of the company fell more than 5% after Cisco cut the forecast for this current quarter from 53 to 55 billion down to 51 to 52 billion dollars for revenues, and that hit the stock heavily late last night. And Cisco now says it's focusing heavily on artificial intelligence and a partnership with NVIDIA to boost growth. The company's restructuring to focus on high growth areas like AI, but in doing this, it's having to refocus staff allocation. And staff allocation had previously been at the old network gearing part of the business. And it's those that are finding the employment picture a little bit more tough than those in the AI area. Anyway, so that 5% drop we saw in extended trade yesterday, some of that's being reversed this morning. And in fact, we're right at the top of the candle at the moment, indicating a slightly less worse picture. I want to show you the minute-by-minute chart. You can see here from the point at which we got the retail sales out, then we had the liftoff in the stock. So I think it's not just Cisco, it's going to be other stocks as well that could be given a little bit of a fillip as a result of what we've seen in terms of those retail sales numbers. Another stock watching will be after the close this evening. That is Coinbase Global. It's reporting fourth quarter earnings. Let's take a look at what's expected there. We're looking for a loss of 6 cents a share. Revenue is 731.9 million, according to the consensus from analysts in the sector. Now, that would be a 16.3% rise. The company's been benefiting from lower transaction technology and development expenses and higher stablecoin revenues as well, offset by declining consumer transaction revenues. Institutional transaction revenues also a little bit under pressure, which is causing this divergent opinion on where Coinbase is likely to go after the bell this evening. Look at what's been happening on the share price chart over the last few weeks or so. Coinbase estimates subscription services revenues remain unchanged in the third quarter, about $300 million. We're talking relatively small amounts of money. This is a relatively new area, of course, as we know, crypto exchanges. It is the largest listed crypto exchange in the world. And so it's always good as a proxy for what's happening with Bitcoin. And as we know, Bitcoin has risen above the 50,000 level recently for the first time in just over 2 years. And indeed, that continues to push higher in the session in today's trade, gaining some 239% from the lows that we had back in November 2022. So, as I said, as a proxy for that, you quite often get people going into the numbers for Coinbase. Just bring up Coinbase again, so we've got a better comparison to look at when looking at what's happening with the stock of. Let me go back into Coinbase for you, so we can get the comparison with that 50 level that we've seen, 50,000 level we've seen for Bitcoin. We've got Coinbase in amongst the money over the last couple of weeks or so. So we're looking for this stock after the close this evening to check in on what's happening as the company produces fourth quarter earnings, and we'll be following up on that tomorrow morning on the early morning call. Let me just quickly return to what's been happening with this dollar trade, because the dollar has a direct bearing on what's been going on with gold. This is the dollar basket. Again, in the face of that weaker than expected retail sales number, second down a row of losses for the price of the dollar basket. And this is having a slightly positive effect on the price of gold. Second down a row of gains at the moment. We're currently back up above the 2,000 level for the price of gold. It has essentially been flatlining since the beginning of December last year, above the 61.8% retracement level at 2001. So bubbling around that at the moment. There for the price of gold. But the message is we're looking for a stronger start across the US markets when trade gets underway in about 50 minutes' time. I'll be back at 4 o'clock this afternoon with a look ahead to what's happening on Friday.